Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to A Little Less Fear podcast. I would like to introduce Susie Hayes. Susie Hayes helps people become freed from stuck. I would love to be freed from stuck by showing them how to access internal resources they never knew they had to create what they never knew they could, combining coaching, counseling, and hypnosis. I love hypnosis, by the way. She is also a speaker, teacher, and award-winning author of the book Freed from Stuck. Dare to cross the bridge beyond grief, trauma, and self-sabotage to discover lasting change now. Yes, Susie Hayes, welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to be here. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. Me too, Susie. Thank you so much. So tell us, how did your journey begin? I'm always curious in the beginning, before we get to the book and the classes that you offer, what got you into this specific journey that you're on now?
It was interesting because I had actually run into a colleague of mine at a professional gathering who had just started a publishing company. And he said, have you ever thought about writing a book? And I said, absolutely not. I don't have any interest in doing that. And he said, I bet you there's a book in you. And I said, nope, no book in me. And I had seen so many people be tortured by that process, and I just didn't have the wherewithal to do that. So he said, give me an hour and a half, and I'll find that book in you. And I said, I'll give you an hour and a half. So we sat down and had a conversation, and he was a really excellent interviewer and asked some great questions. And what came out of that is that I realized that actually for the last almost 4 decades, in all of the arenas in which I was serving, what I was really doing was helping people become freed from stuck. So I said, okay, let's write a book about being freed from stuck. And that's how I really came into authoring that book. And during the process, we put together the acronym of FREED, which is actually stands for the 5 elements or the 5 steps of becoming freed from stuck.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And so what can I ask what that acronym is, or should...
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. It's FREED, freed. So we use the metaphor of a bridge going from stuck to freed from stuck. And so the 5 steps across the bridge, the first one, F, is to face the bridge, which is about identifying what the real problem is. And you certainly know in your work, as I do, that very often what is presented as the problem is not the real problem. Right? Totally. So underneath often what appears to be an experience is actually an emotional state that has to do with some experience of pain or some need that is not being attended to. So to be able to identify what is being expressed in the stuckness, if you will, is really important so that you know how to actually address what is needed. So that's the first step. The second element is the R, which is to recognize the bridge, which is about looking across the bridge to the destination. And part of this piece that is so important is that the more clearly we have a vision of where we want to be, how we believe our life will be different when we get there, and the more emotionally charged it is, the more it fuels us to make that crossing of the bridge, because the crossing of the bridge is a process. And so the more that we can do to support that, the easier it is in that transition of change. The third element is E, embrace the bridge. This is about identifying any sort of blocks or challenges that may be there for us that has kept us from living the quality of life that we want. And also then putting together a plan, a strategy, a process of getting from stuck to freed from stuck. The next E is exit the bridge. And this is the element that we sometimes, very often, don't talk about in the change process, and that is grieving. Because anytime we make a change, we must let go of something. And whenever we let go of something, we experience loss. And grieving, as you know, is the most difficult task for us as human beings.
Absolutely.
And to the degree that we love, or to the degree that we are attached, is the degree of our
Yeah.
grief. But we must do that in order to fully be able to make it across the bridge, because otherwise we will get stuck in that element, in that step, and not really be able to move, or we will um, retreat backwards. We fall backwards if we don't really
And
attend
then
to the
get into that
loss.
same cycle when it.
Yes, absolutely. And then D is arriving at the destination. And at arriving at the destination, it is also about discovering our destiny. And by that, I mean, in any process of change, the transformation happens for us, hopefully, at a level that we become more clear about who we are, what our values are, what our purpose is, that it is an expansive process of change. And so not only do we achieve our goal or change the habit or develop some new aspect of our life, but hopefully, and if it's true change, we will also have a deeper transformation that has to do with that self discovery. And it's also important that at that point we recognize a couple of things. One is that there will be another bridge to cross. There
Yes,
will be
always.
another place where we will be stuck to become freed from stuck.
Mhm.
And that's why it's also important that we have some system of accountability. And by that, I mean not policing, but support and those around us who will encourage us to move forward in our life and to build upon the changes that we've made.
Susie, I'm curious how you came up with Freed because as you were explaining and describing everything, I was thinking about I have my doctorate in psychology, and I remember taking a lot of classes on hypnosis.
Yes.
So, and I saw that you you used to hypnotize people, correct?
Yes.
So that's exactly what I was thinking actually right now as you were describing the process. I remember some of the classes, even though it's been 15 years ago, but I remember that some of them have similar steps. Did you come up with this acronym yourself?
I did not. It was actually my publisher that
Oh,
came up with
wow.
it. Yeah. He called me one day and he said, Susie, I've got this great idea. And I said, what is it? He goes, I think we should use the FREED. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, we're talking about a bridge. And so he
What are you
phased it out.
talking about?
And it was like, wow, that is just genius. So
Yeah.
yeah, I must give him the credit for that.
But but as far as like actually breaking down on how to make it all work, it kind of flows at like a hypnosis in a way, but then you took it more like out of into a manifestation type stream.
Yes, that's true. That hypnosis really does have those elements
Yes.
in terms of what needs to be released and the vision of moving forward
Right.
and the process of guiding the unconscious mind to let go of the resistances and the fear. So you're absolutely right in that. And then, of course, in hypnosis, it's not magic. Sometimes people think that it is. It's very powerful, but
Right.
it is also something that needs to be reinforced and built upon.
It does because a lot of stuff comes up, a lot of unexpected stuff.
It can, yes. That's why we store it in the unconscious.
So, what kinds of things are being freed from people?
Oh my gosh. I would say that probably some of the elements, some of the life experiences where people become most stuck are in areas of trauma or loss, Also, self-sabotage, where they are in some kind of pattern that is not serving them, but they continue to repeat it and are at a loss as to how to change that. And then I think one element where people often get stuck is also procrastination, that they put off and put off and put off, even though they want to make a change, but they resist taking the action that they need to.
Do you find that Freed also helps people with addiction?
Yes, I think that it is. It's basically the same elements are part of the journey of recovery.
Right.
That
And I mean
that
all types of addiction, from drugs to food to sex. I mean, I just, while you're talking, my mind is just going, and I can see how this can help addicts.
Yes, absolutely. And there is, of course, then the added challenge when there is that kind of stuckness that has a strong biochemical component. And that's a whole nother piece that makes it challenging for addictions.
Mhm. What do you find the most rewarding from freeing people from being stuck? Do you at all feel stuck with them and then you become free when they become free, or are you able to completely separate yourself from that and see it all as a separate visualization?
Um, when I was in graduate school of completing my master's degree in counseling, I had a professor who once said, when people come to you, they are struggling and sometimes feel like they're in this deep pit or well. And he said, the last thing that you want to do to help them is to jump into the well with them. So the task is to reach down into the well, to extend to them hope and insight and encouragement, and to help them come out of that well. But you cannot do any good service for them if you jump into the well with them. So
Absolutely.
I really took that to heart very early on, and I've been in private practice since 1982.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been doing this for a little while, and that has served me well, that wisdom,
Oh,
because
yes.
our task is to come alongside of people
Right.
and to be empathetic and to support them in the journey and to give them honest reflection and insight. But if we become entangled in their story or their journey, we don't have the perspective and we don't
Exactly.
have what we need to really be able to help them move out of that.
What is the best freed from stuck story that you can share with us?
Oh, wow. Um, well, I think of one woman that I was working with. I was actually working with her and her um, boyfriend at the time, and then he dropped out of the process. And it's a what I would say a very common challenge, and that is that she had come to realize that she needed to exit the relationship. She knew that, but it was a relationship of golden handcuffs. He was very wealthy, and she had become dependent on him in that way. And she really struggled with going out on her own again and becoming independent. So it was really scary for her. So she was stuck in this relationship. She knew she had to get out of it eventually. She couldn't stay. The pain was too great. And he had been unfaithful to her. And it was, he was not suited for her. And so I observed her, and maybe you have seen this as well. I see this often with women, particularly, and I call it the egg timer event, where they will
I've
go
never heard
along.
of that.
It's my own term. It's just what
Okay.
I observe. that they'll be in a situation, and I will often see this in couples therapy, and the timer will go tick, 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 ding. And when it hits ding, they're done. They are done. And it doesn't matter how much therapy they do, it doesn't matter how sweet talking he is, they're done. And she
To
needed her
that
eight
point.
timer moment. She had to come to this point of saying,
Love that.
I'm done.
Hmm.
And I have only, in all the years, I've only seen one woman who got to that point, who worked her way back, and fortunately is now still happily married to the man, because
Wow.
he did the work. He did the
Oh,
work he needed to.
wow.
So
Excellent.
yes, I mean, we love those stories. Yes, we love those experiences, because sometimes we see that people have to experience those losses and disappointments. So she went on, and now she went on to become a divorce coach. She's
Wow.
also very successful
Wow.
in real estate and mortgages. She has raised her kids now into being successful adults. Financially, she's doing very well, and her life is thriving. So that's what can happen when people are willing to do the work of
Hmm.
moving where they know they belong.
That's a beautiful story. I love it. It's
Yeah,
you
thank you.
literally freed her from being stuck.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's
Well,
the biggest,
she freed herself. Yeah. She had to figure that
right?
out. Yeah. 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 But I helped her along the way.
Susie, what's one of the biggest challenges with trying to free or helping people getting freed from stuck? What's one of the biggest challenges that you have faced before?
Mm. You know, I I remember a very sad moment where a couple had come in to see me, and she had brought him in and said, we've got to do this or we're not going to make it. And I remember that he sat in the chair and his body was slumped over and his head was down, and he sat through the session like that. Didn't
Oh, wow.
say a word, wouldn't respond, would maybe mumble an answer or whatever. And I remember looking at the anguish on her face. And I finally said, I need to be honest with you. I can't work with you
Wow.
because you have no desire
Right.
to heal this relationship. And I wish that you did. Your wife wants this for you, but I see no indication at all that you are wanting anything to be different in your relationship.
Wow.
And he shrugged his shoulders, got up out of the chair, and walked out of the room. And she looked at me with tears in her eyes, and she said, I was afraid this would happen. And of course, I don't know what happened to them. I suspect that probably the relationship was dissolved.
Hmm.
But that was one of the most blatant times of resisting change and healing that I had
Yeah.
ever experienced. Most people, if they're really not wanting to be there, or they're resisting the process, they're a little bit more polite
Hmm.
about it. But the message was very clear that
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
simply was not ready. And so he stayed in the stuckness, and the consequences resulted from that.
Mhm. Wow, that's an incredible story, and I can see it all. I can see it and I can feel it. How do you when you get home? I'm assuming are you not working from home, or do you work from home?
I do work from home now since COVID, because
Awesome.
the office, I paid for rent for a year while
Yeah.
I was doing my work on Zoom. And
Wow.
afterwards I went, when the lease came up, I said, I don't think I need to do that. So I am now working out of my home, and the artwork behind me is from my office. But
Beautiful. I love it.
thank you, thank you. But yeah, I work from home now.
Awesome. So my question is, how do you unwind from such heaviness that can occur in being this type of counselor? and freeing people from being stuck. I understand the whole wishing well story that you explained earlier, and I remember that in training as well. You're not supposed to go in there with them and kind of stay in the third person. That way, you also don't put in you're not so biased. But how do you actually free your own self from that energy once you're done doing an interview like that, or talking to someone like that, or going through trying to free someone from being stuck? Because I can imagine after time after time after time, it can become a little heavy sometimes. It's a lot of energy on your behalf, mental, physical, emotionally, spiritually.
Yes, absolutely. If you are fully showing up and being present with someone,
Yes.
and if they are in deep pain or
Yeah.
fear or
Oh, yeah.
trauma,
Right.
there is an intensity in their experience that needs to be honored
Right.
and reflected and appreciated.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know exactly how to explain how I manage that, other than I do not get entangled in that. And it's not like I have to hold people at arm's length. It's not that. It's that
Mm,
I think I just really understand
that's
that
pretty
I
cool.
need to be present with them from a different place in myself.
Hmm.
And when I'm present with them from a place of hope and clarity
Hmm.
and insight and compassion, then
Oh, yeah.
it allows them to to own their own experience.
Right.
And so when I am done at the end of my day, when I've closed out my notes and I've turned off the lights,
Yeah.
um, I move into my personal life. And probably like yourself, I'm on call. So if there's an emergency, but apart from that, if I am there with them in that moment, that is my commitment to them. And I trust that we will figure out how to move forward with whatever's going on in their lives. We'll figure out how to move forward in the work, and that I will know that when I'm present with them again. So I don't find it depleting, other than how it is for us sometimes when we've worked a long day and we're just weary from lots of hours, and
Right.
that's different. That's a different kind of weariness, but it's not. I don't find that the work itself is depleting for me. If it was, I wouldn't still be doing it with such passion.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love passion. And so your book. So
Yes.
you had someone say you got to write a book. You said you didn't have it in you, but you obviously had it in you. And how did you figure it out you did have it in you?
Well, it was from that initial interview, and then what we did. He had an interesting process. Um, we did 3 days of a 2-hour interview for those
Wow.
3 consecutive days, where he had prepared this massive amount of questions for
Hmm.
me. And basically, it was just like this. It was kind of like an unconscious download. He would ask me a question and I would just answer it. And he took all of that material from those questions and that conversation, 6 hours of material, and he organized it for me and put it together and structured it the way it is. And so it was very fluid. And I mean, sometimes I go back and I read it and I go, wow, that's really good. So sometimes I actually will go back and read portions of my book for whatever reason, and I will, boy, that's pretty good stuff. Stuff I don't even remember saying that, but that's good stuff. So yeah, that's how we put it together. And yeah, it was a really interesting process.
How long did it take you to put it all together?
I believe that overall it was about 3 months. Um, the 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 putting it together, he did that heavy lifting originally, but then it was editing and editing and
Oh
editing.
yeah. So,
And yeah, right.
so
And the and we spent a massive amount of time on the book cover.
Oh,
because
wow.
we wanted to get the message across. And we had this metaphor of the bridge. And finally, the lights came on when he said, well, we want people to be focused on the destination of where they're going to be going. So we picked out this picture that is about a woman crossing a bridge toward the destination.
Oh, I
And
love that.
when I saw the picture, I went, oh, that's it.
That's it.
That's the message that we want. So yeah, but it took us a while to get there.
What an awesome interview you are. You're beautiful. You're charming. You've got a glow to you that's just unlike any other. Thanks so much for being on A Little Less Fear podcast. How can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find you?
They can
And
find
your
me
book.
and my book. Well, they can find my book on Amazon, of course, and they can find me most easily on my website, which
Okay.
is freedfromstuck.com. There's lots of resources on there, articles, blogs, just all kinds of information on different topics. And if anyone is interested in considering doing some work together, they can go there, sign up for an initial consultation with no charge, no commitment there, but it would be a time for us to get acquainted and see if that would make sense. But everything's there right at the website.
Awesome, Susie. Thanks so much for being on my podcast. You're awesome. Thanks for sharing your love, light, and all of your energy. And let's definitely keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It was my pleasure. Thanks so much, Susie.
You bet.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to A Little Less Fear podcast. For more information on my social media pages, you can visit me at www.alittlelessfear.com. I also have an incredible list of resources for people all over the world, and it's really formulated to help all kinds of people: LGBTQIA community, Alcoholics Anonymous, disabilities. The list goes on. So feel free to visit my website, alittlelessfear.com. You can also email me at alittlelessfear@gmail.com. I'm also on Patreon. I'm a life purpose counselor on Patreon. This is available for everybody, and it's also available for only exclusive members on Patreon. Everybody's welcome. So please visit me there at www.patreon.com/alittlelessfear. Thank you to all the new followers and subscribers. Go ahead and hit the follow, subscribe button if you haven't already, and tell your friends and family about A Little Less Fear podcast. Thanks so much for all your support. Love you all. Have a blessed day.